So how will VPC peering works? So there is a requester and also the acceptor. So the first VPC will send a request, and then the other VPC will then accept it, right? And then the third step, we will need to add a route and then update the security groups. Okay. And then the last one, this is optional, but if you need to access each other using a public DNS hostname, so by step 4, all the resources can then access each other using private IP addresses, but not yet using public DNS hostnames, because if we do not enable DNS hostname resolution for your VPC connection, then the DNS hostname will resolve to the public IP address, therefore negating the VPC peering connection that has already been set up. So this is usually enabled. Right. So next is okay. So what happens if we have multiple VPC peering connections? So for example, we have VPC A and B, and there's another VPC C. So A can access B and B can access A. And then A can also access C and C can also access A. However, this is not transitive, which means that VPC B and VPC C has no connection whatsoever. So B and C are still completely isolated with each other. So what happens if you want to connect B to C? So if you want to connect B to C, then you will need to make a VPC peering between B and C. So you can only connect 2 VPCs in VPC peering, but you can connect multiple VPCs, multiple connections. Yeah, you can create multiple connections. However, that connection can only be used to communicate between two of the connected VPCs. So it cannot be used to connect from B to A to C. No, it's not possible. All right. So how about the pricing? So the pricing for VPC are basically the same as if you are not using VPC. If you are not using VPC peering, so it's treated similar as if it's the same region, it's treated the same as the cost or pricing within the same region. So, and for transferring data, it's the same charges as transferring data across availability zones. Okay, but if the VPCs are in different regions, then the inter-region data transfer apply. Okay, so the problem here that you notice maybe that the charges, even if it's in the same region, the charges are the same as transferring data across availability zones. So even if your resources in a different VPC that are being peered are in the exact same availability zone, for example AP Southeast 1A and the other is also AP Southeast 1A, then it will be charged as if it's in AP Southeast 1B. So it's a little bit more expensive than if the resources are within the same VPC and within the same availability zone. But if it's in a different region or is in a different AZ, then yeah, the pricing is the same as if you are not using VPC peering connection at all. And what are the limitations? First, it should be obvious that the IP blocks should not be overlapping. So If the other one is using 10.0 subnet 16, the other cannot also use 10.0 subnet 16. So the IP blocks must be unique, must be different. And then there is also a quota on the number of active and pending VPC peering connections, and as described above, it does not support transitive peering relationships. And a pair of VPCs can only have one connection, and unicast reverse path forwarding is not supported, and IPv6 is supported. However, IPv6 communication is not automatic, and if you use text, it's recommended to use text. Then the tags are only applied to that account and to that region, so the tags do not cross the peered VPCs. And then if the IP4 block of a VPC it falls outside of the private IP range specified by RFC 1918, then these private DNS host names for that VPC cannot be resolved to private IP addresses. So to do that, to resolve private DNS host names to private IP addresses, then you can enable DNS resolution support, which we will use today. Okay, and then you cannot connect or query the Amazon DNS server in a peer VPC. That is quite obvious, because yeah, that will be different. Yeah. Okay, and if there is the VPC peering is in a different region, then you cannot create a security group that references the other VPC. You can only reference the security group if the peer VPC is in the same region. And then you cannot enable support for EC2 Classic, and then the MTU is limited to 1500 bytes, and then you must enable this DNS resolution support for all of the IP blocks. And there's another limitation if your region is in China. Okay, so that's how it will work, and those are the limitations that you need to know before you are trying to create a VPC peering connection.